I mentioned earlier, his name is Otto Hermann. He was born in Hungary in 1876. He emigrated to this country in 1903. He arrived in Providence sometime in 1908. He was gone by about 1915. In those 7 years, however, Otto Hermann had a profound effect on the growth of aviation in Rhode Island and in this country. During that time, he built at least 2 aircraft from the ground up, helped found the Rhode Island Aeronautical Association, established the first airport in the state, designed a new 5-cylinder rotary engine, and is a candidate for first to fly in Rhode Island. The Canastota, New York newspaper obituary that we finally tracked down just a week ago sum up Hermann's accomplishments in aircraft engine development by saying his first motor was perfected while the family was living in Providence, Rhode Island, and as there were no planes on the market, he also made the plane so that he could install the motor. That's quite a feat. Now, we've known about Otto since we started in 2003, but we had a great deal of difficulty in finding out what he did after he left Rhode Island. We didn't even know when, where, and how he died. We have deferred honoring him because it didn't seem to be the right thing to do without family and friends to share and accept the honor. But since we plan to mark the centennial of Rhode Island aviation this year, we couldn't wait any longer. We had to induct Otto Hermann, so we redoubled our efforts. Now, thanks to a research librarian in Florida, we finally located grandson Ed Hermann, who came up from Delaware with his wife Sally to be with us this evening. As of last Friday, we had 2 Hermann families come into this dinner. Elaine? I'll talk about serendipity. A week ago Friday, I received an email and a phone call from Elaine Hermann Mitchell, who lives on Long Island, and she had decided, or her family had decided, to do some genealogical research on their grandfather. Now, I don't know what precipitated this. I know you had a birthday in September and you visited his grave, right? So 8 days prior, they do an internet search. They get a hit on the Rhode Island Aviation Hall of Fame website, and they find that their grandfather is being honored in the Rhode Island Aviation Hall of Fame in 8 days. How's that for an ancestry research thing? So tonight, we have 26 members of the Hermann. Including 9-month-old Paul Otto. And he's the one who's pictured with his, what is it? Great-great-grandfather's gravestone. And it's on in Cortland, New York. In Cortland, New York. All right. I'm not going to repeat what's detailed in the program, but it was a I love aviation history, and this was a challenge. And, one of the greatest honors that I had was when the Hermann family came up to me and said that they learned some things about their grandfather by the work that we from the Rhode Island Aviation Hall of Fame had done. And that's when you do that, there's no better reward than that. There's no doubt that Otto Hermann had flown successfully in this state by early 1911. And it is likely that he flew earlier, but we have no definitive proof. Local papers, as I mentioned, had filed or provided some significant coverage to the flights of a fellow named Joseph Seymour in a Curtiss biplane at Narragansett Trotting Park between June 23rd and July 4th of 1910. Now, those of you that have lived around here for a while remember Shepard's department store. Well, John Shepard, Jr., at that time decided he would bring this flyer, Seymour, in from New York to do a promotion for Shepard's department store. That's the one that was publicized in the newspaper. The Providence Journal went so far as to describe the June 23rd flight as the first successful airplane flight in Rhode Island. But was it? Today's evidence suggests that Seymour may have well made the first public flight in Rhode Island, but others may have preceded him in private. And to me, one of the most telling and intriguing things was that in a 1911 interview with the Providence Journal, Otto Hermann said, "I think that I'm going to have success this spring. After all, I did better than Joe Seymour did last year." Now, why would he say that? But again, it's one of those things, you know, maybe we'll dig something else out, but for the moment, the jury's out on who was the first person to fly in Rhode Island. But Otto could very well be. And no one knows why Hermann chose Providence as the site for building and flying his aircraft. If any of you guys have any hints as to why he came here, we'd love to know. Equally, no one knows why he left, probably around 1950. 10 years later, by 10 years later, he held a patent on a rotary engine called a semi-diesel. And among its numerous innovations were an induction system that can only be called an early attempt at fuel injection. This was in 1925, a fuel injection engine. He was also a key player in creating a municipal airport for Canastota, a town that's a little east of Syracuse, between Syracuse and Oneida in New York. That airport was dedicated by Amelia Earhart in August of 1928. His 23-year-old daughter, Helen, was reportedly married aloft that day in an airplane piloted by Amelia Earhart. So, great stuff. But anyway, to sum up his accomplishments, I mean, he did a lot. He envisioned a new method of atomizing fuel and controlling an internal combustion engine. He apparently forged that dream into very real metal, despite the fact that even advanced scientists at the time knew very little about the dynamics of combustion and the behavior of gases. Now, Douglas Black, who's the reference librarian that I told you about, who's researched his life extensively, wrote to me and said, "He was an extremely creative, talented, and determined man, and there's certainly no question that he did design, build, and fly an airplane while living in Rhode Island, and he might have been the first person to do so. To have done so in 1910 and 1911 is no small achievement." He concluded, although he was neither a Rhode Islander nor even a U.S. citizen by birth, he contributed greatly to the aviation community during the years he lived here. If nothing else, he certainly served to inspire others to achieve great heights, both literally and figuratively. And just as a postscript, since we are honoring the military here this evening, his grandson, Private First Class Paul O. Hermann, 17th Regimental Combat Team, the 7th Division, was killed in action while leading his patrol in Korea on June 1st, 1951. So I'd like to ask the grandchildren of Otto Hermann to come up, and if there's somebody else in particular that you'd like, but we don't have room for 26 people. So it's up to you. Let's start with the grandchildren.
Yeah.